Hey everyone, how are you doing? I hope you're all fine. I'm back with a new video. I had something I want to talk about. I think all in the community we see a lot of videos about a lot of stuff, and I had this topic in mind, and I was watching Oya's Girl's channel with Miss Aminat. It was about the what was it called? I'm sorry, Yami Oracle, and she actually spoke some words that were related to what I wanted to talk about. I just didn't know how to go about it, so I kept putting it off. I made some notes and then I went back and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna ramble. So this is maybe gonna be, like I said, a little bit of a ramble. But I wanted to talk about the fact how we read. I'm sorry, cat came on the table. I think this is what I meant. We're gonna go a little bit in two topics, but I feel like they intertwine in that sense. We see a lot of stuff happening, a lot of decks, and then there are a lot of readings. Oh yeah, and before I go on, I'm sorry, I was doing some art and I got ink and all kind of crap on my finger and behind my nail. I'm sorry for that. But yeah, so we see all this going on and we have that urge, you know, to buy more decks, and I'm the last one to say that I'm a minimalist in that sense. I do have a lot of decks. However, I am very particular in how I choose my decks. I had this conversation with a friend where I gave the example, you know, every time I see the Wildwood Tarot, I'm tempted, you know, and I feel like, oh, the art is so beautiful, but I need to remind myself it's not a deck I'm going to work with. It's very Celtic based, and that's not a practice I do. So for me, then, the question I ask myself, then what is the point? Yes, the art is beautiful, but I can appreciate that without owning the deck. And this is where we're going to overlap, you know, because I think a lot has been said and spoken about. The commercial part now of tarot. And like I said, when Queen Auset from Oya's Girl mentioned that, she hit it she hit it right on top for me, you know. She was like, because everybody is like looking for that one deck that's gonna give us the answers, or that one soul deck, right? Instead of really looking at your cards, really understanding the message, really dissecting what's being said to us when we do a reading. And again, this is my main subject in that sense that I want to talk about in this video. Because I think during my collection or other videos, I mentioned that I do a focus reading, you know, mostly once a month, you know, but sometimes that stretches out. I took this card from a deck that came fairly new in my collection. I wanted the India edition, but there were some issues in that time with shipping to where I am located. I found out that it was going to come mass market, so I bided my time and I waited. I think it came in a week ago or something, and I didn't do my focus reading yet, well, because of the new year, everything around it, you know, and I was sick for some time, so I didn't really put my energy in there, which I did when this one came in, because normally most of the times for my focus reading, I'm using the Weavers and or the Black Madonna, either one of the two, or I combine them even. But I kind of felt like, especially the witch card in this, because they're like two separate. Wait, let me show you. I think most of the people will know it's not like an odd deck in that sense. But for the ones who don't, you have two parts. These are the witches, so to speak, you know. These are the voices, I think she calls them. So you really have like a focal kind of well, person or archetype in that sense. And this one she calls the whispers. It's like a little bit of the tools, you know. You can either mix them up, or you take one card of this and then you take some extra cards of the whispers, you know. Anyway, because again, it's not about a walkthrough in that sense. I felt a little bit like this part, the voices, it felt a little bit like, well, the Weaver's light. And I don't mean that in a negative tonation, because this is why I wanted it. I already thought that, but yeah, until you really have it in your hand, you don't really know, right? But it really felt like this, even when I had it in my hands. It's like the Weavers, but a little bit lighter, you know, in the sense of the guidebook's message when it comes to those voices, you know. I mean, if this is, for example, then this all is like the message, and here you have a little bit about the person, about the witch, they call it here, you're looking at. So I thought, you know what, because I just got sick, let me try this for a month. But anyway, the thing I want to talk about, you know, I pull my focus, whether that's this or Weavers or whatever, you know. And then this is my focus. This is what I need to do, well, this month, or at least a month for me personally. But I have had instances where I went for 2 or 3 months with one voice, you know, whether it's a Weaver or this one, we will see. But it's very important, again, Rambly, sorry, that you really, well, it's kind of funny because I have the listener this month, you know, but that you really listen and dissect that reading, because otherwise the same one will come back. It's Queen Auset said that too, you know, like she mentioned something about seeing those readings and seeing that these messages are exactly the same. They might come in different formations, but basically the same thing has been said. And I see that too. That's why I said I was already thinking about this subject and how I could bring that in a respectful way without pointing fingers or, you know, making people feel uncomfortable. But like I said, it was that moment I was like, you know what, don't prepare, just press play on your recorder, you know, do this video. Because how would you do that? I think a lot of people are just want to use their new decks or whatever it is, you know. When I pull that card, mostly I do that at the end of the month, beginning of the month, you know. The question is then, what should my focus be this month? What is something I really need to pay attention to? And like I said, I did that now with the Compendium of Witches. Well, the message of the listener was about that we hear, but there is a difference between hearing and listening, really listening, whether that's to the sounds around you or to have that real courage, you know, to listen to your inner voice. What is it telling you? So this is my focus of the month. And whether you want to dive in directly or not, the pace you do it, you can definitely plan yourself in that sense. Well, for me, like I said, I really let that sink in, because sometimes I have an instant hit like, oh yeah, I know. And sometimes I'm a little bit like, I don't know, or how does that relate to me? Or sometimes even hesitance, like you don't want to listen, right? We know, but we don't want to. Whether I leave that be or do it directly, you know, I pull a tarot deck. In this sense, I did it with my Auset and Thorn. I liked the combination of the two. And I also took an extra oracle card with the Herbal Astrologer. Now, these are not the cards. Well, this one was. I pulled this one, and I don't know if I can find the Oak, Ash, and Thorn card that quickly, because it was Justice. And yeah, I think it's shuffled back in that sense. Well, anyway, because like I said, it doesn't matter. What I do for the purpose of how you might really dissect that then, you know, is ask the question, okay, I need to listen to myself. How can I do that best? Or what are the energies I need to be made aware of? And again, I'm just pulling now for a second, you know. So I got Nettle. I will read the message, because then I can more directly ask the question in the sense of a new card, you know. Here it says action. Okay, by really taking action, how can I take that kind of action where I'm really opening up and actually listening? And, oh, I pulled them the other way around. And for example, I got here the Seven of Pentacles. So now you have that reading, and whether you journal or not, that's up to you. But if you journal, you can, well, journal about it, you know, like what did you pull now? How does that affect your focus of the month? And when I've done this, yeah, I'm going to go fairly quick, because it's about the foundation more than the meanings in this moment, right? This one stays out. This one doesn't go back in there in the deck, you know. This one stays out because this is my focus. Everything I pull around it needs to correlate back, you know, to this focus. When I do that again, I let that sink in. I really think about that. Because in that moment, whether I have an instant understanding or I really need to think about it, that doesn't matter. I write about it, I think about it, and I let that be again. And this were decks that maybe correlate with the listener, you know. But again, in that sense, especially when I have a focus, it doesn't matter. Because now, when we talk about multiple decks in that sense, you know, I think about, okay, how will I go about it? We had action, you know. And what was it? The Seven of Pentacles, yeah. Whatever kind of message that brings up to you, you know, and you're really thinking about it, and a few days later, yeah, instead of just doing a reading, you know, I'm not talking about your daily pull cards. That's something separate, you know. But instead of just doing any kind of new reading, you know, go back. That's my basic point, you know. Go back. Now you have all this information, and we're gonna have questions again, you know. Whatever that question is, and whatever deck you want to use, whether you use the same ones or different ones, you know. Okay, I thought about it. Action, Seven of Pentacles, you know. I really need to have that courage, you know, to listen to my own voice. Whatever that message was, how can that relate back? I have a new question. And again, I'm not even going to shuffle. It's just for the sake of putting it down, you know. I pull 2 or even more, you know, new cards. Again, how does this relate back to your focus? My point being. So when you do these readings, instead of doing, I mentioned it before, this is why I said it has been in my head for some time, you know. Instead of doing your 30 or 60 readings in a month and just read, you know, and not really work at the messages you're getting. Because I think that is the basic point, yeah. Because of society today, because of the multiple choices that we have with decks today, how do you really take full advantage of your reading? Yeah, you can have multiple practices, you know. I have certain practices I practice with other people, you know, in the tarot community. But this, no matter what is around it, this is my main practice. Yeah. I want to go back to that focus, that thing that I really need to pay attention to. Every other personal reading in that period, whether that's a month or more, you know, is about this focus. And I can build up to it because, well, let's take these back for a second. We had this one, Nettle, and yeah, the Seven of Pentacles, right? So, oh, I hope I'm still in the picture here. So this was the focus. Now we're building, you know, to this. What is the message here? How does that relate back? You get an overall understanding, and in that overall understanding, I'm building back again, you know. And whether that's again then with these, yeah, whether that's once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, but again, you know, I'm building back. I'm now just taking cards, but I think you know what I mean. You know, I'm building back up, you know, because now I have one message, yeah. I'm building on that message, and now I want to build on the combination of all these messages and so forth, you know, until, and this is something that's in your intuition. It's a feeling like, you know, when you're done with this work, you know, yeah, that it's a feeling, you know, the moment, yeah, that this work is done. And for me, like I said, it's round about a month. Sometimes after 2 or 3 weeks, I really already got that message. But I'm not pushing. I let that be then until the new month comes, to really focus on something new again, because I like the cycle of that month, you know. But like I said, sometimes after 2 or 3 weeks, I already got that message. There have been times, you know, that I kept going. I was in my 2nd or 3rd month, and I was like, well, am I not getting it? It was not about not getting it. It was about learning new things, and they all build up to each other. I also had it happen, well, it was not this deck, but just as an example, I was working, let's say in this month, you know, I'm doing my readings, and my focus is the listener. And it was a little bit at, well, not the end, but near the end of being completed with this topic, you know. And I pulled a card. It was Trust from, because I don't have it at hand, the Wisdom of the Divine Feminine, I think it was, yeah. And I pulled a Trust card. And it didn't really correlate with my message. I could bring it there, but it was not like that hit that you feel like, oh, I understand. So I put my focus away, and I put Trust there, and I did another reading with it, you know, to really get deeper into trust, and again, how that related to my focus. And when I felt like I was done, I went into my new month, my new focus, so to speak, you know, and that card really related back, you know, to that Trust card, and I remembered it. And I went back and I actually pulled that Trust card, and I pulled it together with my focus. What I'm trying to say here is, when you feel that click, sometimes it's about closing the focus off and focusing on something new, and sometimes they overlap, you know. Sometimes you can see that with one, you're actually building up in your personal progress, you know, in the way you read, in the way that helps you build. That is something that's really going to be personal, you know. You need to really look at that for yourself. But yeah, again, my main point here, you know, when you really want to use tarot, oracle, or any kind of divination system, and you really want to tap into what message do I get, then it's about going deeper. You cannot just, and again, I'm not talking about the one card pull in the morning or something just for a quick message in that morning, you know. I'm talking about the bigger readings. Even maybe in your one card pull, you will know or feel that it's a bigger message. And then it's up to you, me, and everybody, you know, who is in this community to really tap into that. try to understand it, because otherwise you're just going to be doing readings and you're going to get very little out of it. And then I'm going to go back to the beginning. Because you get very little out of it, you keep searching for new decks. You keep searching for that deck, you know, that's going to give you all the answers, that's going to make you, make you understand everything. And that's not going to happen. And like I said, I'm in no way a minimalist. I'm not sitting here acting like I don't have multiple decks, because I do. However, I work very, how do you say that? I work with every deck in a certain way. Like I said, I bought this one, you know, and it came in the right time in that sense, because I was not in a mood after I was almost sick for 2 weeks, really heavily, you know, heavy fevers and all that. I was not in a mood for the weavers. It was too deep. It was gonna break my brain, so to speak, you know. And that was also the time that this one came out, and I already wanted to try this. So I was like, you know what? I already thought it would be like a Weaver's but lighter. And again, not in a negative way, because great messages. So when it came in, I was getting over my sickness, you know, and I was like, you know what? Yes, let me try this one. A little bit lighter, you know, and I'm still going to have that focus. So that was a reason for this one. Like I said, for example, this one, it's an oracle deck, and it's not really in that sense like it would be my aesthetics if I didn't make my own deck. I bought this one to pair with my own, you know, Alkebulan Tarot. I tried some decks that I already had, and it was not just, well, it was not that click, right? That, oh yeah, that's my pairing. So yeah, like I said, and I'm not gonna say that I'm immune. I made mistakes in buying too. I'm gonna keep going to the terror of the cat people. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I'm immune to that. But again, however, every deck that comes into my collection, it's gonna have a very specific purpose in my practice. Now, I want to mention in that sense, you know, tarot is not the biggest part of my practice. I'm a root worker. I work with herbs, you know. I'm a hoodoo practitioner. So there's a lot around it, you know, that I do. And tarot is a part of that. Or, well, not even tarot. Let's call it divination, you know. Divination is a part of that. Because whether I take my cards, or, well, in this one, I got my my cowrie shells, you know, for the yes and no. Here in front of me, you cannot see it, but I got my playing card decks because I always need them in that sense, you know, to be surrounded by me. On my left, I think once the screen is turned, it's on the left, is my ancestor altar. And underneath it is a cabinet, or well, it's a cabinet. My ancestor altar is on there. The cabinet houses, well, practically most of my decks. I have a few here in a little drawer I have on the desk, because they are my general, well, everyday pull kind of decks in that sense. They don't have a specific topic, you know? And those are very, very small in number. This is what I mean. Any other deck I have for a very specific practice. And even though, again, I'm not a minimalist by all means, you know, but it's important for me that whatever deck I bring in, I'm not just thinking, oh, it's pretty. Because all the decks are pretty. Well, okay, not all. I'm sorry. No disrespect, but not all the decks are pretty. But most of the decks, you know, they're pretty. Whether that's in a Renaissance kind of art style, or for me, you know, my Afrocentric decks. Whatever the topic is, you know, most of the decks are pretty. But again, when I relate that back to myself, then, you know, I'm going to use myself as that example. There is no point for me, you know, to use Celtic-based decks, because I'm not in that practice. How can I use that when, for example, I have their pen, or, well, the green man? Yeah, I think. I'm sorry if I made a mistake in the naming of it, you know. But for me personally, I cannot work with that. I cannot relate that back, you know, to my practice. How do I turn that card around, if it's the Green Man or Pen or whatever the naming is, you know, and use that as a message for myself? Probably, in all honesty, if I really wanted a deck, I could make it work, right? I think we all, you know, have that ability to talk ourselves into anything. But I want to be honest with myself. I don't mind having multiple decks or having even a lot of decks. However, I do want to be having a practice with every single one for a specific purpose. For example, with this one, I've been looking for a herbal deck. I really am. I mean, I'm a root worker. How is it possible that I cannot find a good herbal deck or plant-based deck in that sense? And I think with art, in the art style department, the Seed and Sickle came close, and I had it for a short period of time, because once I pulled it, you know, yes, you can get something out of certain herbs, you know, but there were no keywords. So I every time needed to go back to a guidebook. And then even with, again, all due respect, the guidebook didn't really provide that much, even though you have to. I found the system confusing, no keywords. It was just not working for me, even though the art was beautiful. And this is what I mean. I can appreciate the art, but I can appreciate it from a distance, because that deck doesn't work for me. With this one, in all honesty, after all these years, and I'm not even exaggerating here, after all these years, I finally found my perfect one. I mean, the people are brown, you know, and white, but mostly brown, and from, yeah, a different ethnicity than, well, only white. So that already made me happy. The fact that we have keywords makes me very happy. And I actually love to go in this guidebook, because she really knows her stuff. She gives a little bit, well, almost of a history lesson, right? In the sense of where the herb came from, or where it was used in that specific area or that specific time. And then you have a message. In all honesty, I don't even read the message. I take my own message with the keyword, but I love all these history parts. So for that, I actually enjoy going to the guidebook. However, if I'm not in the mood and I just want to pull a card and have that instant hit, I can have it with this. I mean, the art style is absolutely amazing. I love Palo Santo here. I mean, yeah, wait, I'm far away, yeah? I mean, isn't that just beautiful? Yeah, I think it's amazing. Anyway, for me, you know, this was finally my perfect herbal deck, you know, or herb plant-based deck. I do love the Herb Crafters Tarot, but again, that's tarot, right? It's a little bit different. So what I'm trying to say is, when this one came out, when you're really looking for something specific and you make some mistakes, yeah, don't go crazy on yourself. But also at the same time, I think we need to learn to let go. If we know something doesn't work for us, yeah, but the art is beautiful, well, the art can still be beautiful even if we don't have it, you know. In this case, I think, let me see to really be sure, I think this is my only plant-based oracle. I wish I had more, because again, I'm a root worker, you know. I love that energy. I can really work with that energy, but again, it needs to work for me. There is no point for me, you know, to buy decks, yeah, that are really tapping into that Celtic tradition, which I understand. I mean, where I live, we're in Europe here, you know, and I think overall, you know, in the Wiccan or pagan traditions, Celtic really steps up in that sense, you know, really pops up, comes forth. So I can understand it, but again, all these choices you have, you know, it's just not going to work for me. I'm going to slow down in that sense, you know, and wait for that deck that comes, because I already got rid of my Seed and Sickle before I even got this. it was not working for me. Yeah, I will search, but I can search while you're gone, you know? So yeah, in that sense, I really wanted to bring these two together, you know? Go in depth in your readings. Stop doing these small readings every day or every other day, you know, and not really paying attention. Paying attention is the whole part of divination. I mean, whether you believe in a god like I do, or you have certain deities you work with, when you get a message, they're trying to tell you something. Don't just go over it. Yes, journaling is one part of you can really look back, you know, but again, this might sound judgmental, and I really don't mean it that way, please believe me. But how many of you do a reading, write it down, and don't look back? And again, I'm not talking in that first month when you're still in that period, you know. I'm talking about really looking back. Like, what did it have to say to me? Do you build on your readings? When you get one message, do you really work at that message? Like, okay, this is what's been told to me, you know. How can I really put that in my life? How can I really change things around? Because especially when we're older, and I'm not meaning old, but even in the middle or end of your 20s, you know, and I'm already, well, almost nearing 40, we love to have that quick hit, that quick message, and then let it be. But that's not how divination works. And I'm not going to say in my opinion, because it's just not how divination works. You're having a conversation, whether that's with God or, like I said, you know, one of the deities you work with. Or even if you don't work with deities and you just believe in your intuition, like what does pop up. You're selling yourself short, you know, by not working on the messages given to you. And just because a message is given to you once, you understand it, you catalog it in your journal, that doesn't mean that anything changed. Now you are made aware of it. So what is the next step? And that is maybe outside of tarot, you know, or any divination system. How are you going to work? How are you going to better, you know, yourself? In the sense of, how can I really change this up? If a card tells you to take rest, yeah, I'm going to be very honest. Like I said, I don't mean to sound judgmental, because that's not the message here, you know. And if I do, again, I'm really sorry, because that's not the intention behind this. But how many have pulled a card that told you, you know, you need to rest? Yeah, you need to calm down. When you get that message, how many of you actually did that? I'm really wondering. And you know what it is? I understand when you're gonna tell me whether that's screaming now at the screen while you watch this, or even in my comments or whatever. But in the sense of, yeah, but I'm busy, I don't got time to rest. No, but that's the point. The message told you to rest. So now you need to make sure that in that busy schedule that you have, that you will take time out. Nothing is impossible. But by putting your mindset in a way like, oh no, I cannot do that because I need to do this, this, and this, and this. Well, we all need to do that, you know. All of us are busy in a different way. So when that message comes up, again, how many of you do actually carve out, look at your schedule, and really tell yourself, you know what, F it, yeah? This is the evening, or tomorrow evening, or the weekend, or whatever, you know, phone goes off and it's me time. I'm gonna rest. And this is a very simple example maybe in that sense when I'm talking about rest. But when the cards or the shells or the bones or the charm set or whatever kind of divination form you have give you a message, then it's up to you, you know, to really take that message and work with it. Because again, this is why I say it overlaps a little bit here and there. Because again, we keep searching for a different kind of deck to give us all the answers. But even in our normal Rider-Waite-Smith, you know, or Thoth or Marseille or whatever your system preferred system is, yeah, even these cards without the beautiful artwork, yeah, they can give you that message, but it's up to us to really act on it, to handle the message given and make that an action, to make that something that we actually put in our lives. And like I said, a rest part, you know, in that sense, it may be an easy message, maybe not the right word, but I think you know what I mean. It's like an example, right? An easy example. But I think it's a great example in the sense of, again, how many of you actually really put your schedules in front of you, you know, and carve that time out. You cannot expect these cards, or again, any divination form, you know, to give you messages, and you're not listening to them. You're not acting accordingly. You are not changing up things in your life, you know, to actually change that, to make sure that the next time you actually go deep within yourself, again, with whatever divination form, you know, you get a new message. Because again, when I do this, like I said, whether it's a month or longer, or even shorter sometimes, you know, it depends for me. Like I said, I had a focus card, and after 2 weeks, because the message was pretty simple, it was a very simple thing, you know, but before I got it, I was not paying attention to it. The moment I paid attention to it and changed things up, that message was done with. Nothing new came out. I really had that feeling of, yeah, this is closed, you know, I've done this. I got the message and I acted accordingly, you know. And yeah, like I said, all these tools, they're awesome, you know, but this is the capitalistic problem we're having when we need like a new deck. And don't get me wrong, again, I want a new deck, yeah. When I see beautiful things coming out, I'm no different than any of you, you know. But again, I do ask myself the question, how does that work in my practice? And again, I've made mistakes. Terror of the Cat people, and I'm actually thinking about Legendary Witches. It's actually the first deck I bought again. So it left my collection. It wasn't working for me because it too had this two-part kind of thing. This is why this one is weird, because this works for me. And the Legendary Witches didn't work for me the first time. So it left my collection. And I wanted it again. And in all honesty, I wanted it maybe for the wrong reasons. I'm also a writer. I write poetry. And I was like, but I need to connect with that deck, right? I mean, these are all writers. I mean, that's me, right? I wanted to put myself in there. I even modified the deck in a sense. Well, not this one then, but the tool cards of the Legendary Witches, I actually stamped my own keywords on them, so that again, I didn't need to go to the book, you know, but I had it right there. And maybe time will tell me, because I'm going to give it a little bit more time. But after modification, I hardly used it. I think once or twice, maybe. I think that's even much. So I'm going to give it a little bit of more time. But yeah, again, if I'm not going back to it, then again, it needs to leave. Because that clutters up my space. That makes it a part of my collection that I need to consider. And every time I go there, I'm not picking it, you know. Something can be beautiful and I want it to work for me, and sometimes it just don't, you know. By being more consistent, or more actually working with the messages of your deck, I think, yeah, you're gonna be more, well, particular, you know, in your choices. Because then if a deck comes out, like I said, for me this is perfect. However, any of you watching, you might be like, yeah, but that's not perfect for me. And that's very valid. That is the whole point, right? Then that is a good example. Like, okay, I'm not really working with plants. I already got a plant oracle that's working for me. Yes, it's beautiful, but do you need it? The moment you really have an understanding of how to get these messages, how to work with these messages, how to put these messages into an action, yeah, you're gonna be more selective with your decks. Because then you know, yeah, oh, but if yeah, it's a beautiful deck, but how would I use that in my readings? Because when my readings come up, I have subject like this or this, and this doesn't fit in there. In all honesty, like I said, I mean, this is the messages from the Spirit of Nature Oracle. When I saw it, I thought, oh, cool. But I didn't need it, you know. I was like, no, not really. It's not that interesting to me, you know. Not even not that interesting. I just didn't see it, you know, being used in the practice that I'm having. And like I said, then I made my Alkebulan Tarot, Afrocentric based. And I was like, okay, but I'm not really having anything. Again, I could make one, but in a moment, I didn't really have anything that I felt, you know, would fit this deck. And it was Miss Kelly of the Truth and Story that showed this. I think it was in a plan with me or something, if I'm not mistaken. And I remembered it. I was like, oh, maybe that deck, because where I didn't have any interest in the beginning, you know, I remembered the pictures, well, vaguely, you know, in the back of your mind. And I was like, oh, maybe that would work, you know. So I looked again, yeah, to some walkthroughs, and I was like, yeah, I think this might work. And in all honesty, the moment, even after every consideration, you can still make mistakes. This one, in all honesty, was not. It will never leave. Yeah, it's very simple, but it gives that extra oomph, you know, to my deck. But again, where I was not interested to begin with, yeah, I changed my mind. And vice versa, like I said with other decks like Terror of the Cat People, I bought that for a very specific purpose. It's not working for me. I'm still looking for that purpose. What I want, and I was actually thinking of, well, making one myself. It doesn't have to be perfect, it needs to work for me. So yeah, again, I do think that these things, you know, correlate with each other. And even though I had that idea in my mind, but yeah, Miss Queen Auset from the channel of Oya's Girl, she made that comment and it clicked. It was exactly what I was thinking every time, but I was like, well, maybe it's too judgmental to do a video about it. And you know what, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. At the end of the day, I do think, yeah, especially to, well, people who are newer in divination, it could be something that can add to their practice, you know, that can really make them understand, yeah, yes, decks are beautiful, but it's not all about having all the decks. It's about having the right decks. The right decks that will work for you. Whether that is 1, whether that's 10, or whether that's even 100, you know. But at least then when you go into buying decks, that you buy the right ones. That will give you those messages, that will help you understand the messages, and that will help you build on those messages and actually take that action. So yeah, I hope I was not too rambly. Like I said, I tried to make notes, but yeah, that didn't work for me because, well, my brain, I'm a Scorpio. We don't plan in that sense, you know. There's a lot going on in my mind that I want to say, and then I'm always scared that once I press play, it's gonna be like, well, chirping crickets, right, in my brain, like nothing. So it took a while for me to actually formulate and go about this video. But hey, here we are. I hope it made a little bit of sense. If you have any questions about anything, you know, put them in the comments. If I can, I will answer them. I will answer mostly everybody who puts a comment there. Yeah, if I don't know something, I will tell you too. Anyway, I want to thank you all for watching, for being here, for being part of my channel, because still I'm pretty new, right? And I'm really enjoying seeing people I know and seeing people I didn't know, you know, come together in my comment box, or that I see are watching my videos. So thank you for that. And I hope to see you soon with a new video. I don't know what that will be or when that will be. But hey, when I pop up, you will know. Okay, thank you very much. And I hope you all have a very, very blessed day. Bye-bye.